Hi friends, what was your blood pressure the last time you had it checked? Not what your doctor told you 6 months ago though. I mean, what was your blood pressure actually doing in your real life? Could you be eating a good diet, exercising, and thinking you are in great shape? But when you occasionally check your blood pressure, it is abnormal and you ignore it, like Midas Snap 9028. He suffered an aortic dissection and now he's advocating don't ignore high blood pressure just because you are feeling fine, because his life dramatically changed. Thank you for sharing your story, Midas Snap 9028. My name is Dr. Lou, and I've been a clinical physician for over 27 years. I have the privilege of supporting people with high blood pressure, tens of thousands of people, and its consequences. Unfortunately, by the time I get to meet them, these consequences can be super severe and irreversible. And that's why in this video, I'm going to show you 20 natural ways to lower your blood pressure using food, movement, nutrients, basically simple daily habits that most people overlook. The thing is, your blood pressure isn't static. It's changing all the time. And you have the power to change it in the right direction to keep you from prematurely aging. Now, I recently accompanied my friend to his doctor's appointment, and when the nurse took his blood pressure, the number was high, but she didn't say anything. He felt okay. He didn't think anything was wrong, and apparently neither did his doctor because she didn't say anything either. But my friend, he also didn't ask the question, "Hey doc, how's my blood pressure? Is it abnormal or is it good?" I think he was embarrassed, like at Anthony Peril 9418. High blood pressure is nothing to be embarrassed about. This is just a data point telling us your body needs a tune-up, like aged cars. That's the reality of life. We all need it. Calypso 13100, I know blood pressure recommendations are confusing. The guidelines to what is considered normal, though, hasn't changed for decades. In 2001, normal blood pressure was still a systolic blood pressure under 120, and this is why. This is from data following 1 million people. With every 10 points higher in systolic blood pressure, no matter your age, the risk of heart disease and strokes increases, with the greatest increase happening in those who are younger. Now, what has changed is the definition of high blood pressure or hypertension. In the past, stage 1 hypertension was a number above 140, and now stage 1 hypertension is a number above 130. Now, at JPR Ewer, sure, everyone is different in their ability to achieve a normal blood pressure, and guidelines do take into account for those differences. But data is data, and abnormal blood pressure values increases risk of bad outcomes. As doctors, we're just trying to reduce your risk. That's it. But it's 1% our effort and 99% your effort. At Travis Johnson 9432, just to be clear, the number one treatment to prevent blood pressure is lifestyle modification, which this video is all about. However, it is recommended that if you are over 18 and you show up with high blood pressure, that's a number greater than 140/90, then your doctor will likely recommend a medication, unless you're over 60. Then we initiate medications when your blood pressure is over 150/90. And of course, there's always going to be exceptions, and hence, this is why medicine is personal. It should be a conversation and a partnership between you and your physician. There's no replacing that human contact. However, no matter what stage of blood pressure you are at, lifestyle interventions is the number one most important thing you can do to lower your blood pressure. So let's go back to the chart that at Travis Johnson 9432 was referring to. Now, this chart is made in the US by the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association. They together release evidence-based guidelines in managing high blood pressure. Now, I didn't finish telling you the story about my friend. So I gave him a talk about the gravity of high blood pressure, even if you're in stage 1. And within a week, he was able to lower his blood pressure by 20 points. And no, I didn't give him a miracle pill or supplement. I didn't give him a prescription. The thing is, he's still pretty young, that his blood vessels aren't that damaged, and they're very responsive to changes in his activities of daily living. And I was thrilled because no matter how you slice it, the benefit of lowering blood pressure on the average can reduce 40% of strokes, 25% of heart attacks, and over 50% of heart failure. So why aren't we all doing it? So the first step into lowering high blood pressure is to learn how to read your blood pressure. And let's just simplify this. So when you see a blood pressure reading like 130/80, you're looking at two numbers. The top number, the systolic number, is the pressure in your arteries when your heart contracts and pumps blood out. Now, this is a number that often becomes more important as people go older, especially over 50, because your arteries get stiffer with age. The bottom number is a diastolic number. That's the pressure that your arteries see when your heart is resting. And if you're younger, this number can be especially important too. So both numbers matter. And you don't get to ignore one because the other looks okay. In general, normal blood pressure is less than 120 of the top number and less than 80 of the bottom number. And once you start creeping up above that, especially in the 130s and beyond, that matters. Not because I want you obsessing over a number, but because blood pressure is one of the simplest, cheapest, and most powerful windows into how your cardiovascular system is doing. It tells you whether your blood vessels are under strain, handling that stress pumped by your heart, or whether it's doing a good job, whether your blood is actually circulating, or whether it's being slowly damaged. And hence, the most important tool you can buy for your health if you're serious about protecting your heart and your brain and your kidneys, basically your longevity, is to own a home blood pressure monitor. And it's not just for older people. Everyone should know their numbers at any time. Because once you start measuring your blood pressure at home, then you stop guessing and start seeing patterns. And you start noticing what happens after you go to the restaurant or you cheat on your diet a little bit. What happens after you don't sleep well, after a fight with your favorite person? What about alcohol? What about eating a lot of salty foods? Or after movements and after you hydrate well, or when you're just changing your diet? All this is important data. And this is your feedback. Feedback changes behavior. So which one should you buy? Well, you can get an arm cuff or a wrist cuff. I have here a arm cuff. I think it's more accurate. This is my blood pressure cuff. And let me show you how it works. You're supposed to be sitting down. I'm standing. I don't mind doing it because I check it often enough. But I'll show you what my blood pressure is standing. So you want to line up your cuff. There's usually a circle around where your blood vessel is at. Okay, it's usually around the middle of your elbow, your brachial artery. And then normally you're supposed to have this relax at the level of your heart. So I'm going to sort of relax, press start, and let's see what happens. All right, my blood pressure is 103, 76, and 66. So that is not high blood pressure, okay? And I feel fine. That's very normal blood pressure for me. If that's not your normal, then it may be too low for you. And if you feel bad, you should really see your physician if that's not your normal blood pressure. But it's very good for all of us to be checking our blood pressure on a regular basis. If you have any abnormal value, you should repeat it. And of course, if you feel bad, call your doctor to ask exactly what you should do. To make sure your meter is accurate, bring it to your doctor and then compare your machine to theirs. And that way you know whether your home readings are trustworthy. Just a quick note before we continue. I see messages and comments all the time from people who have watched a few of my videos and didn't realize that they weren't subscribed. So if you find value in my videos, can you click the like button and double check that you are subscribed? It's free and it really does help get my message to other people. And if you are subscribed, thank you very much for joining me to change the world. So the number one thing you can do is to stop drinking alcohol, and that'll lower your blood pressure. And if you must drink no more than half an ounce of ethanol. Limiting your drinking can reduce your blood pressure by 2 to 4 millimeters of mercury. Number 2, movement is a must. My friend and I went out for a walk for 30 minutes, and that alone dropped his blood pressure by 20 points when he checked it that same day at home. Regular movement, as simple as a brisk walk for at least 30 minutes, most days of the week, can reduce your blood pressure by 4 to 9 millimeters of mercury. However, like my friend, you can even have better responses. You just don't know unless you move. And combining more than one intervention can get you even better results. Number 3 is going to be hard to hear but easy for me to say. Lose 10 pounds. The key to weight loss is in your eating pattern. It's not about fasting or just lowering your calories. It's about quality of food. Diets high in the key ingredients that contain electrolytes like potassium and magnesium and whole food fiber have shown to reduce people's blood pressure. And diets that lack fiber, that lack magnesium, and lack potassium are usually high in ingredients that elevate blood pressure. So far we've talked about 3 longevity strategies that I know you will be resistant to doing because they are making you change your lifestyle. And I'm sure you're probably saying to yourself, I already eat pretty well, I already exercise, and I've already cut back on drinking. But data is data, folks. If your blood pressure is still elevated despite that work that you've already put in, obviously that work isn't good enough. And sometimes we put a lot of effort and it may not be enough effort, or it may be in the wrong direction. Have you ever done that in life? I had a friend in college who would spend hours and hours studying for an exam, yet barely pass the exam. Whereas I have other friends who would barely study and ace the test. And I don't necessarily think one person is smarter than the other. I think the person who aces the test uses his effort wisely. And the person who spends a lot of time but doesn't ace it is not putting in the right effort. So I'm going to show you how to direct your effort because that's super important. And if you understand what the payoff is, though, and what the consequences are, maybe that'll help motivate you to persevere, double down. The thing is, most of the time, high blood pressure symptoms are ignored. And in the literature, it says people have no symptoms until they have symptoms. But I actually disagree with that. We have plenty of high blood pressure symptoms, but most people don't connect the dots. Low back pain, impotence are high blood pressure symptoms. Hair loss, especially your toes and your legs, are blood pressure symptoms. Headaches, no matter how commonly you get them or how long you've had them in your life, can be high blood pressure symptoms. So can anxiety, flushing, fatigue, brain fog, dizziness, feeling off, or having palpitations and chest pains. All these symptoms are so nonspecific and they're so common in people's everyday lives that they don't make the connection. And then your body adapts to your new normal, and that is why it's dangerous. So now you don't recognize it as being unusual until you have an extraordinary symptom that represents a crisis. And unfortunately, that crisis can be catastrophic, like a stroke, a heart attack, kidney damage, or a terrifying ER visit that happened to my friend. He told me he felt like impending doom, which is why he asked me to join him in his post-ER visit. And by then, you're no longer catching it early. You're catching it too late. So one of the most loving things you can do for yourself is stop waiting for symptoms to give you permission to be proactive and do something today. Most people never think about the fact that blood pressure changes throughout the day. And your blood pressure is not one fixed number. The most important number to get normal, though, is your morning blood pressure. Your body naturally has a morning surge in blood pressure. And this happens because when you wake up, your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which makes you increase your heart rate, increase your blood pressure, tighten your blood vessels. Your body shifts from rest into action. That's perfectly normal. But for some people, especially if you're older, inflamed, stressed, dehydrated, sleep deprived, sodium overloaded, that morning surge can become excessive for your body to handle. And that is one reason why heart attacks and strokes and sudden cardiovascular events, they happen more frequently in the early morning hours. Hence, if you have high blood pressure, you have to pay attention to your morning blood pressure. And one of the easiest things you can do to lower that is number 4, don't launch out of bed like a rocket. Sit up first, pause a minute, let your body adjust. Then you stand. It sounds like small and minuscule, but these tiny transitions matter for your cardiovascular system when it's under strain. And this brings us into one of the easiest blood pressure habits of all. Number 5, drink some water first thing in the morning. You may want to keep it next to your bedside. you may be waking up mildly dehydrated, and that can make your blood pressure problems even higher. Now, obviously, if you're severely dehydrated, your blood pressure will be bottoming out. But more often in everyday life, dehydration is just mild, but it adds stress to the body that is already struggling. And one of the simplest habits is to just drink when you wake up, and drink water before your caffeinated drinks, before you start rushing or answering phone calls, checking your emails, before the stress of your day start hijacking your nervous system. And that's one surprising habit that may help you feel a difference. But of course, make sure you check with your doctor to make sure you're not on a fluid restriction.
Hi, friends. I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes, and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
Number 6, do some breath work after you wake up, or whenever you're stressed, actually. Your breathing controls sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So when you're anxious and you're taking really shallow breaths, hyperventilating, that will just make you more anxious. You're literally not clearing enough carbon dioxide in your lungs, and that means you're not clearing the acid in your blood. And to clear carbon dioxide better, you just slow down your breathing. That slows your heart rate and calms your body. In plain language, when you take slower breaths, especially when you make the exhale longer than the inhale, you send signals to your vagus nerve and your brainstem that the body is safe. And that tends to lower your heart rate, improve your heart rate variability, relax your blood vessels a bit, reduce your muscle tension, and it can bring your blood pressure and respiratory rate and heart rate down. But fast, shallow breathing will do the opposite. It'll keep your adrenaline high, it tightens your chest, makes your body feel on, right? You're getting ready to fight. And the easiest way to not do that is to sit upright or lie down comfortably. Relax your jaw, your shoulders, breathe through your nose. Put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly, and try to let the belly hand rise first, not the chest. Then you inhale gently for 4 seconds. You pause for a second. You slowly exhale for 6 to 8 seconds. Don't force air out. Just let it leave like you're fogging up a mirror, but with your mouth closed, if comfortable. And do that for 2 to 5 times to start. The simple rhythm is to inhale 4, exhale 6. If that feels easy, you can inhale 4, exhale 8. Another effective method is a physiological sigh. And this is especially useful if you suddenly feel anxious, wound up, or you're just kind of stuck. And here's how you do it. Take one inhale through your nose and a second short inhale at the top of your first inhale before you exhale, and then you do one slow exhale through your mouth or your nose. So it's inhale, tiny second inhale, then long exhale. And you repeat that 2 to 5 times. And you're opening tiny sacs in your lung and quickly reducing the air hunger that you're feeling when you're stressed. Now, if your goal is to lower blood pressure before bed, or before you check your blood pressure on a meter, or before a stressful conversation, then try that. It actually works. Sit still, keep your feet on the floor, unclench your jaw, and do 10 4-second inhale to 6 to 8-second exhale. And then you quietly wait for a minute. Many people will notice that their heart rate drops, their chest feels more relaxed, their body feels just calmer. Number 7, don't make coffee your first move. I know nobody wants to hear this one, and I'm not saying coffee is inherently bad, but if your blood pressure runs high, caffeine is something that you should really test for tolerance. Don't just assume that it's harmless just because you've always done it. Caffeine is a stress signal. It can temporarily increase your blood pressure, and sometimes that can last for 12 hours. And if you want to know how caffeine affects you, check your blood pressure before and after coffee. Check it at 30 and 60 and 90 and 120 minutes after you drink the coffee. Don't guess, just measure it. Your body will tell you whether coffee is helping your ritual or hurting your blood pressure. And if it is, then it doesn't necessarily mean you need to give it up forever. Keep in mind, sometimes caffeine can stay in your system, right, for like a long time, 12 hours. So seeing a rise in blood pressure, means you get to reduce the amount of caffeine, delay it, or maybe change the decaf. So number 8 will make your wallet fat and your waistline skinny. You can save money by avoiding restaurant food. This one is a massive wallet bleeder and a high blood pressure feeder. Restaurant food is one of the easiest way to accidentally elevate your blood pressure. Why? Well, why do they make food tasty, right? That's how they make business. It's convenient, hyper palatable. They can't help but add more calories, more old oils, more saturated fat, more hidden sugar, sauces that have salt and sugar, and they have flavor enhancers, processed ingredients, you name it. I know it all tastes good. And on that note, number 9, avoid TV dinners. I know they're cheaper than restaurant food, but have you looked at the ingredients? They're full of sodium, bad fats, and their proportions are so small that after you eat them, you're going to look for other comfort foods to eat. And those comfort foods are probably increasing your blood pressure because it's full of refined starch, salt, and sugar. And that's the thing with blood pressure. What you do today doesn't necessarily have an immediate effect. You may not notice these effects like high blood pressure for 24 to 72 hours later, but you won't have remembered what you did. Hence, number 10, start tracking what you eat daily. Take your daily blood pressure readings and record that. And I know this could be very tedious to do. That's why I'm working on a nutrition app to help you streamline this. Hopefully, it'll be out in a couple of months. So when you start tracking your diet as well as your blood pressure, then you'll do what most people miss. Understand why their blood pressure is changing and understand if that direction is supporting their longevity. And this is where people suddenly realize, hey, I've been eating this way all my life and my blood pressure is better. Or hey, wait a second, every time I do this, I eat out, my blood pressure goes up for a few days and then I feel kind of crummy. That kind of awareness changes behavior more effectively than any of my videos or any lecture ever will do. However, when you eat, it's important to add number 11, ground flax seeds every day. And I have to pick one food, that would be it. It's absolutely great stuff. It's called brown gold. Flax seeds, the original kind, may not look impressive, but when you grind it up, this is a metabolic powerhouse. It gives you fiber, lignans, omega-3 precursors, blood sugar support, cholesterol support, bowel support, anti-inflammatory compounds. It can help lower your blood pressure. And this is why food quality ranks probably above any man-made drug for longevity. But if you have uncontrolled high blood pressure, you probably need to take that down immediately with a man-made drug that can be a bridge to getting your food jump-started so that you don't end up like FDR. You know, his doctors just kind of watched him, suggested the wrong foods, and it didn't work out so well for him. You're probably wondering how to eat it. Just sprinkle it on your oatmeal, your smoothies, your yogurt. You can also use some chia seeds, right? Mix it in fruit, make overnight oats. And again, this stuff, the whole one, if you don't soak it and process it right, it'll just pass through you. This stuff, if you grind it up, you release omega-3 fats, fiber, protein, minerals, and vitamins. They're the same thing, just one is ground up. So it's important to ground up your flax seeds. Literally, all animals would go away if all the seeds and the plants went away. But in order for plants to make these seeds and to reproduce, it needs to have leaves, which are so powerful because they convert sunlight into energy. Isn't that just miraculous? So that's why number 12, use their tools and eat more of their green leaves, which contains vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and magnesium. They help you combat stress. They help you detox, remove oxidative stress. And that's why diets rich in vegetables are such an amazing food to eat. But, even potatoes are in the vegetable categories, but potatoes won't help you lower your blood pressure, especially the way people eat potatoes. It's the green stuff, the stuff above the ground that sees sunlight, that gives us a different story, that helps us to prevent premature aging. That green color is powerful, like the herb arugula, number 13. Arugula has natural nitrates that help your body make nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is one of the most important molecules for healthy blood flow. That's because nitric oxide helps your blood vessels relax, open, dilate, become less stiff. And when your blood vessels are more relaxed and flexible, your blood pressure will improve. And this is why leafy greens are so powerful. They're not just routine run-of-the-mill vegetables. They are biochemical botanical tools. And arugula is actually one of my favorites because it's easy to eat. You put in salads, wraps, sandwiches, grain bowls on top of avocado toast. That tiny herb has such a big bang for your blood pressure. So number 14 is another big bang for your buck, and that's beets or beet juice, and that's the root. Beets support nitric oxide production too, and that's one reason why athletes use them for years to enhance their performance. And they have better blood flow, not just for disease prevention, but for energy endurance and oxygen delivery. The beet greens, on the other hand, are high in oxalates. So I wouldn't juice that. You can cook it, throw away the water, and reduce some of the oxalates by doing that. Just don't juice it raw because you will accumulate more oxalates, which are associated with kidney stones. But that's not a problem with beetroots. And there are a variety of ways in which you can eat beetroots. You can roast beets, you can shred it on salads, blend it in smoothies, put it in hummus. But remember, beets aren't magic. If the rest of your diet is still not improved, you cannot outbeat a terrible diet. It's important to use them as a part of your strategy. And have you noticed that rich red color has a huge impact on human health? That's why number 15, hibiscus tea supports lowering blood pressure. It's vibrant, it's easy to build. You can make it into a habit, drink it hot, cold, plain. You can add some cherry or citrus juice in it. Gives it a sweet taste. And number 16 is the reason why I eat green leaves too, because it's full of magnesium. It is one of the most important minerals for life. Magnesium regulates muscle relaxation, nerve function, blood vessel tone, your insulin sensitivity, your blood sugar, your heart rhythm, your energy production. And if your blood vessels are constantly tight, reactive, inflamed, and irritable, well, magnesium can help to relax that. Now, did you know that half the American population, they don't eat enough magnesium in their diet? And some people blame it in the low magnesium content in the soil. But people aren't eating stuff that grow in the soil. They're eating boxed foods. So their foods are already deficient, not because the soil is deficient, but because they're not eating the stuff with the magnesium, which are greens and beans and salads and whole plant foods. And that's why number 17, eat more beans. Now, some people mistaken it as being green beans. Hey, green beans are great, but I'm talking about garbanzo beans, black beans, beans like red beans, azuki beans, like mung beans. They're loaded with anti-inflammatory fibers, magnesium, and when you eat beans, you lower your blood sugars, your blood pressure. But remember, when you cook them, don't over add the sodium. In fact, number 18, if you can avoid sodium in your food, that'd be great. Actually, number 19, also avoid sauces. That has a lot of sodium too. Sodium raises blood pressure because your body, when you eat salt, will hold on to water, which increases pressure against your blood vessels wall. It basically is turning on the hose. And over time, that extra pressure, it strains your blood vessels. It strains your organs like your kidneys, brain, and heart. But of course, salt affects everybody a little differently depending on how well your kidneys work or how much, you're insulin resistant and your age. Most of the time, sodium doesn't actually come from your salt shaker though. It's actually already there, found in prepackaged, prepared foods or restaurant foods. And that's why you can skip adding these salts, but still eat over 3,000 milligrams of sodium in a day. So that's why number 20 is important. Avoid breads like breadsticks and pizza. Not only because they put sodium on it, but they also put sodium inside the bread. Salt adds taste, helps control yeast fermentation. It adds to texture and shelf life. And it's also just not the bread, it's what you're eating with the bread. If you want to learn more about those foods, watch the next video.